Alright, to start off, what I'd like you to do is complete questions 1 and 2 here on the screen. Either you can do this work on a piece of white paper and a pencil, or just a scrap piece of paper that you have sitting by, but I'd like you to write it down somewhere. We're not going to use the Expo markers today, but we will be using blank pieces of paper. So number 1 says to make it into a mixed number, 110 over 3. And number 2 asks you to make it into an improper fraction. So if you'd like to pause the video now, take a few minutes to complete numbers 1 and 2, and then when you're ready, turn the video back on and double check your answers. So if you are watching now, then that means that you've already completed questions 1 and 2. If you did not complete questions 1 and 2, you need to complete that now. So if I look at question number 1, in order to make it into a mixed number, all I have to do is divide. So 110 over 3 is actually secretly a division problem. So if I draw my arrow up here, I'm going to do my work up here. 110 becomes my dividend. Oh, it's a terrible drawing. And the 3 becomes, let me erase that because that looks terrible. Let me try that one more time. My 3 becomes my divisor. So all I'm going to do here is simply divide 110 divided by 3. So 3 cannot go into 1, but it can go into 11, and it can go in, let's see, 3 times 3 is 9. It can go in 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. Subtract. 11 minus 9 is 2. Bring down the 0. 3 goes into 20 how many times? Well, I know that 3 times 3 is 9, so it's got to be higher than 3 times. Let's try 6. 6 times 3 is 18. So that is the closest number I can get without going over 20. 6 times 3 is 18. Subtract 2, there's nothing else to bring down, so this is my remainder. However, I don't just write it as 36 remainder 2. I write it as 36 as my whole number. 2 becomes my numerator, and 3 becomes my denominator. So my final answer is 36 and 2/3. If you got that right, give yourself a star, a smiley face, or a heart. That's awesome. It's going to be something that you're going to have to be able to do in a couple of weeks when we take a quiz. When we have a question that looks something like that, that's the exact steps that you're going to go through. And this should hopefully be a review from 5th grade. So hopefully you feel somewhat confident about these 2 questions. Question number 2. Make it into an improper fraction. In order to do that, I'm going to take my denominator, 6. I'm going to multiply it by my whole number, which is 18, just like up here, plus my 5, which is 23. And that 23 becomes my numerator, and my denominator, I simply keep the same. So my answer is 23 over 6. So give yourself a smiley face, a heart, or a star if you had question number 2 correct. Alright, you're going to be doing some more practice on a piece of white paper or a scrap paper, whatever you have nearby. But today's focus is multiplying fractions, which actually is really simple in my opinion. And multiplying fractions is one of my favorite things to do. So forget everything that you know about adding and subtracting fractions, having to find the least common denominator, all of that junk. Multiplying fractions, all you do is simply multiply the top, numerator and numerator, by the bottom, denominator, denominator. So all you're doing is simply multiplying straight across top and bottom. And that's as simple as it needs to be. So let's do some practice here. I'd like you to write these 2 questions down on a piece of paper. Let's try 1/2 times 4/5. So if I multiply straight across, 4 times 1 is 4, over 5 times 2, which is 10. All I did was simply multiply straight across. I do not need to find a common denominator when I am multiplying or dividing, which we'll talk about dividing fractions a little later. Now, I'm not done yet. I need to double check always if my fraction is in the simplest forms. Always, always, always. So I'm going to double check here. 4/10. I know that 4 and 10 are both even numbers, so I know that they can both be divided by 2. 4 divided by 2 and 10 divided by 2. So 4 divided by 2 equals 2, and 10 divided by 2 equals 5. I know that 5 cannot be divided anymore, and I know that 2 cannot be divided anymore, so 2/5 would be my final answer. Let's try the second one. 3/5 times 9/10. Same thing, I'm going to go straight across. 9 times 3 is 27. 5 times 10 is 50. So my answer is 27/50. Now, I want to double check here to make sure I can't multiply or divide anything into either top or bottom. 27 is actually a prime number, so 27 over 50 is my final answer, 27/50. The only difficult part about multiplying fractions is if you don't know your multiplication facts. That's really going to hurt you. So if you don't know 9 times 3 or 5 times 10 right away, it's going to take you much longer to solve these problems. And if you don't know your division facts, like up here, you're also going to struggle. So a part of learning how to multiply fractions is continually practicing your division and multiplication facts whenever you have the chance, because it's really going to help you and give you an advantage as we go through and learn dividing fractions as well. All right, go ahead, take a minute and copy these 2 questions down. Now, this question's a little bit different because I see a mixed number here. I see 4.5 times 3/4. Same thing down here with 9 3/5. The rule for multiplying fractions when you see a mixed number is always change your mixed number into an improper fraction. So I'm just going to write this up here. When multiplying fractions, always change your mixed number into an improper fraction, then multiply. So there's my little note for you over here, in case you forget. So when multiplying fractions, always change your mixed number into an improper fraction, then multiply. So let's do that first. Let's start with 4.5 up here. So if I know how to transfer or change my mixed number into an improper fraction, I take my denominator, multiply it by my whole number, which is 8. Add 1. 8 plus 1 is 9. That becomes my numerator. My 2, my denominator stays the same. So 9/2 is my improper fraction. 3/4, I'm just going to keep the same. And I'm going to multiply straight across. So 9 times 3 is 27. 4 times 2 is 8. So my final answer is 27/8. Now, what I'd like to do is when you have an answer as an improper fraction is have your final answer as a mixed number. So I'm going to do that quickly here and set up my division problem. And I know that 8 goes into 27 3 times. 8 times 3 is 24. 27 minus 24 is 3. 3 becomes my numerator of my fraction. 8 becomes my denominator. So my answer is 3 3/8. That's my final answer. What I'd like you to do now is to take a minute and I want you to complete this question right now on your own. Remember to change your mixed number into an improper fraction first, multiply straight across, and then make sure your final answer is as a mixed number. So you can pause the video now and take a few minutes to solve that problem. So you should have completed that question right now if you're watching the video. If you haven't, please pause it and complete it. This isn't for a grade, this is just for practice. This is just to help you. So if I take my denominator, 5, and I multiply it by 9, 9 times 5 I know is 45. 45 plus 3 is 48. It's a very large numerator. And I'm going to write 48 over 5 because I'm keeping my denominator the same. So 48/5 times 1/2. I'm going to multiply straight across. 48 over 10. Now I know that 48 tenths, I know that 48 and 10 are both even numbers, and I know I still need to transfer that into a mixed number. So what I'm going to do is I like to simplify my improper fraction first and then change into a mixed number. You could do it the other way and change into a mixed number and then simplify. It's up to you. I'm going to do this division problem. 10 divided by 48. I know 10 times 5, I know that fact is 50, so I know it must be 4, because I don't want to go over. 48 minus 4 is 8. 4 and 8/10. And I know 8/10 must be simplified, because they're both even numbers, so I'm going to divide by 2, top and bottom. And that gives me 4 and 4/5 as my answer. So if you had 4 and 4/5, you had it in the simplest form in a mixed number, that is fantastic. That means you're in awesome shape. If you had this answer, that's a step in the right direction. You just had to take it one more step. If you struggled with multiplying, that's definitely an area you're going to have to continue to practice our multiplication facts. But other than that, that is multiplying fractions. We're going to do a couple more practice ones. This time it's whole numbers times fractions. So go ahead and take a minute and copy these 2 questions down. So when we see a whole number like this, is the number 5, I'm going to change this into a fraction. So 5, rewritten as a fraction, is simply 5 over 1. The reason for that is because if I divided 5 by 1, it would just still be 5. So any fraction, any whole number over 1 is the equivalent fraction. So 5 over 1 is the equivalent to 5. So I'm going to change that into a fraction. I'm going to multiply by 1/8, and I'm going to do it straight across. 5 times 1 is 5. 8 times 1 is 8. And it gives us our final answer as 5/8. Same thing for this next question. How about you pause the video and try that one on your own. Make sure you simplify and then circle your answer, and then you can resume the video and double check your work. So you should have completed this problem, 6 times 1/8. I'm going to rewrite the number 6 as a fraction, which is 6 over 1. 6 over 1 is the same as 6. Multiplied by 1 over 8. And I'm going to multiply straight across. 6 times 1 is 6. 8 times 1 is 8. 6 and 8 are both even numbers, so I know that they can both be divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So that leaves me with 3/4 as my final answer. So if you had 3/4, if you simplified it, awesome, awesome job. You are ready to go.